In this session, we will discuss part 2 of principles of electronic exchanges, rather to say the SPC exchanges. So in our earlier discussion, we have covered the basic concepts of SPC exchanges. To some extent, some 3 slides we have covered. Now we will continue our discussion with this 4th slide. As the processor is capable of performing operations at a very high speed, it has got sufficient time to run routine test programs to detect faults automatically. Since it is a very high powerful processor, so it will have sufficient time for conducting the routine test programs to detect faults automatically. Hence, there is no need to carry out time-consuming manual routine tests because of the very high powerful processor. So there is no need to carry out the tests manually, which is time-consuming. In an SPC exchange, all control equipments can be replaced by a single processor. The processor must, therefore, be quite powerful. Therefore, since you want to replace all control equipments functions with a single processor, so the processor must be quite powerful. Typically, it must process hundreds of calls per second in addition to performing other administrative and maintenance tasks. So the processor must be so powerful to process hundreds of calls in a second, apart from performing administrative and maintenance tasks. However, totally centralized control has certain drawbacks. In this centralized concept, there are certain drawbacks. What is that? We will see. The software for such a central processor will be voluminous, very large, and complex, and difficult to develop reliably. So to develop the program with reliability, these are all the problems with the centralized control processor. Moreover, it is not a good practice from the point view of the system security, as the entire system will collapse with the failure of the processor. So other aspect is, suppose the entire system depends upon a single centralized processor, so any problem with the processor will lead to the collapse of the entire system. Therefore, it is better to adopt a decentralized processing. So it is suggested to go for decentralized type of processing. Now, further we will continue our discussion on SPC concepts. The difficulties and adverse aspects of centralized control can be overcome by decentralizing the control. That's what we have seen in the earlier slides. So instead of totally centralizing, so to some extent decentralize the processing or the control. Some routine functions such as scanning, signal distributing, marking, which are independent of call processing, can be delegated to auxiliary processors or peripheral processors. So we will study in detail about scanning, distributing, and marking. So these are all the auxiliary functions, or they are known as the peripheral devices. So these routine functions of scanning, distributing, marking can be assigned to some other auxiliary processor or processors, whatever the case it may be. These peripheral units, that is scanner, scanning, distributor and marker, each with a specified function. So each will have its own function. Scanner will have its own function, distributor will have its own function, and marker will have its own function. Each with specified function are often themselves controlled by a small stored programmed processor, thus reducing the size and complexity at the central control level. So if you have a separate program for scanner, distributor and marker, these are known as processor peripheral devices. So it will reduce the size and complexity of the central control processor or the level. Since they have to handle only one function, scanner has to handle one type of function, distributor has to handle one type of function, marker has to perform a specific function. So either scanning or distributing or marking. Okay. So all the three will function independently. They have different tasks. So therefore their programs are less voluminous and far less subject to change in their programming than those at central level. So the change of the programming required in case of scanner, distributor, marker is not required as often as that may be required in case of central processor. So this is the additional facility by decentralizing. Whenever we require some change in programming, so we can concentrate on central level control, leaving about the programming pertaining to the scanner, distributor and marker. So this is the block schematic diagram of SPC exchanges. So there are 6 subsystems or sub-units within the exchange. The first one is known as terminal equipment. So we will study in detail about each and every subsystem. So on which the subscriber lines, trunks and service lines are terminated or connected, whatever you call it. Then you have second subsystem which is known as switching network. Then you have the central control, that is CC, memories. So central processor and its memories. This is the third one. Then you have distributor, then scanner and marker. All they are put under one subhead, that is fourth subsystem. In turn, it will have a separate distributor, scanner and marker. Then you have another subsystem that is about the signaling functionality. So the signaling links, the signaling may be of common channel signaling or channel associated signaling. We will study in due course of our discussion about this common channel signaling and channel associated signaling, which are popularly known as CCS, common channel signaling, and CAS, channel associated signaling. So this is about the fifth sub network. Then you have the sixth sub network, which provides man-machine dialogue. by teletypewriting and giving comments. This we will also call it as Visual Display Unit, VDU. Now let us see the subsystems of SPC exchanges in a non-detailed way. First we will study in non-detailed way, then we will look into each and every subsystem in detail. So the same block diagram I have shown on the left side for easy reference while discussing. SPC exchange consists of 6 main subsystems as shown in the figure. So there are 6 subsystems. First one is terminal equipment. This one is the terminal equipment, which provides termination facility on individual basis for each subscriber line and for inter-exchange trunk. So it provides a facility for terminating subscriber line and inter-exchange trunks also. Of course, service lines also terminated here, that we will study when we study about this terminal equipment in detail. Then we have switching network. This may be of space division type or time division type. Okay, this we will call it as space division or time division switching network. This network of 2 types. It can be either you may go for space division type or you may go for time division type, which we will discuss, okay, in the ensuing slides. Then we have another important, the main brain behind the switching, that is switching processor. Mainly consists of processors and memories. So this consists of processors as well as memories also. Then we will come to the fourth one, that is this fourth subsystem is known as switching peripherals, which consists of scanner, distributor and marker. So these are the interface circuits between control system and terminal equipment, and between control system and switching network. So these are the interfaces between the control system and switching network, and also they are interfacing between control system and terminal equipment. Okay, then we will look into the signaling interfaces. These two are known as signaling interfaces. Depending on the type of signaling, they may be decadic or digital. So if it is the dialing is decadic or pulse dialing, it is known as channel associated signaling. So subsystem will be there. Suppose if it is a digital, that is MF signaling, so it is known as common channel signaling, which is represented by CCS. Then the subsystem 6 is data processing peripherals. So typewriters, printers are connected to these videos. All these come under data processing peripherals. The purpose is for man-machine dialogue, for operation and maintenance of the exchange. If you want to give some command, so with the help of these data processing peripherals, this is man-machine interacting system, subsystem. So you can operate on the system and maintain the exchange. Now let us study a little bit in detail about each and every subsystem of our SPC exchange. The first one is terminal equipment. This is what we are going to discuss in this slide. In this equipment, line, trunk, and service circuits are terminated for signaling purpose, speech transmission, and supervision of the calls. So we have subscriber lines and trunks and service lines terminated on this terminal equipment. That's why it is known as terminal equipment. So its main business is for signaling purpose, speech transmission between calling and called party, and to supervise the call, whether the call is progressing properly or not, when the call is commenced, when the call is completed, all these supervisory functions are to be performed with the help of the terminal equipment. The line circuits carry out the traditional functions of supervising and providing battery feed to each subscriber line. The line circuits here, both line and trunks, okay, are shown in two blocks, sub-blocks, okay. So the line circuits carry out traditional functions of supervision, and it has to provide the power supply battery feed to the subscriber. The power supply required for the function of the telephone instrument at the user is fed from the telephone exchange itself. This we have already discussed. So once again we will recollect that the battery feed for the telephone instrument at the user is required. So that is with the help of line circuits. The trunk circuits are used on outgoing, incoming, and transit calls for battery feed and supervision. Similarly, if you consider this as trunks, so for trunks also, it may be outgoing or incoming or transits. So we got the responsibility to supervise the outgoing call or incoming call or transit call. At the same time, we have to provide the battery feed for all these three types of the calls. Then coming to the service circuits terminated on the terminal equipment. Service circuits perform specific functions like transmission and reception of decadic dial pulses or MF signals, which may be economically handled by a specialized common pool of circuits. Okay, the functions of circuits is mainly for transmission reception of this decadic pulses or MF signaling. So it can be of any type. Initially we were using decadic type. Nowadays we are using MF signaling. So in contrast to electromechanical circuits, the trunk and service circuits in SPC exchanges are considerably simpler because functions like counting, pulsing, timing, charging, etc. are delegated to stored program. So in our electronic exchanges, when compared to electromechanical circuits, all the functionalities like counting, pulsing, timing, charging are delegated to stored program. So this is the entire activity is simplified and when compared to electromechanical switching systems. Then now we will study about the second subsystem, that is switching network. This is what we have shown here in the block diagram. In an electronic exchange, that is SPC exchange, the switching network is one of the largest subsystems in terms of size of the equipment. So it is the main as well as the largest subsystem. Okay, its main functions are, so we are giving what are the main functions of the switching network. The first function is switching, that is setting up a temporary connection between subscribers and trunks. So when calling party makes a call to called party of the same exchange, so it has to provide a temporary connection. Suppose if he is making an outgoing call, so he should be connected to trunks. So both the connections are temporary in nature, in the sense, once again I reiterate, it is only for the duration of the call. After completion of this call, it may be either local call or outgoing call or whatever it is. So the switching elements are freed up for another call. Transmission of speech and signals between the terminations with reliable accuracy. Apart from that, it has to transmit the signaling between the terminations. Terminations means lines or trunks with reliability and accuracy. It has to take care of both signaling as well as the speech portion also. There are two types in electronic switching systems. So the two types are furnished here in electronic switching. One is space division switching, other is time division switching. Now we will try to understand about space division switching and time division switching. In this slide, we will try to get the basic concept of space division switching. In a space division switching system, a continuous physical path is set up between the input and the output terminations, say between calling and party. So, calling party, subscriber A made a call to the called party, subscriber B. So as long as they speak with each other, so the path is should be through between calling and called party. After the conversation is completed, only the path is disconnected. The switching element is freed. The path, the entire circuitry is released. So you have to establish a continuous path between the calling subscriber and the called subscriber for the entire duration of the call. It cannot be shared for some time, like in time division. So it cannot be shared. It is a continuous path till the conversation is over. So it is also semi-permanent in nature. Okay. The path is separate for each connection and is held for entire duration of the call. For each conversation, for each connection, there should be a one exclusive path for the entire duration of the call. After call is completed, so that can be used for some other call. Once a continuous path has been established, signals are interchanged between the two terminations. So once you establish a path between calling and called party, so the signals are exchanged between the calling and called party. So generic term we have used as two terminations. Okay, it may be from calling party to a trunk also, whatever it may be. But for easy understanding, we will say between two subscribers. Such a switching network can employ either metallic or electronic crosspoints. The crosspoints can be of metallic. If there are metallic crosspoints, there are old electromechanical. Electronic crosspoints are used in our electronic exchanges. Here we will go through the contents. Previously, usage of metallic crosspoints with reed relay, crossbar, etc. were favored. So in crossbar exchange, we were favoring these metallic crosspoints. Of course, as I already told many a time, they are all obsolete. Now only electronic exchanges are working. Consequent to the advent of electronic switching systems, electronic cross points are favored. So this cross point should provide a path between the calling party and called party for the entire duration of the call, that is space division switching. The path is semi-permanent till the end of the call between the calling and called party. So this type of switching is known as space division switching. Now we will proceed to time division switching. So here we have to recollect the basic concepts of our pulse code modulation, where we share the media on time basis in terms of microseconds. Let us discuss point by point time division switching system. In time division switching, a number of calls share the same path on time sharing basis. So unlike in space division, so where the path is semi-permanent for the entire duration of the call, the same path can be shared on time basis. A few microseconds you give for one call, a few microseconds you give for another call, and this goes on rotating. Okay, let us go through. The path is not separate for each connection, unlike space division. Rather, it is shared sequentially for a fraction of time by different calls. So we are sharing the path among different conversations. This process is repeated periodically at a suitable high rate. The repetition rate is 8,000 times per second. Is nothing but our sampling frequency. That is once in every 125 microseconds, that is the frame duration, for transmitting the speech of a person. In 125 microseconds, all the users in 30 channel PCM, 30 users, in 24 channel PCM, 24 users, they share the media, the path in 125 microseconds. So it is for 3.9 microseconds for each sub user in case of 30 channel PCM. Most of our discussion will be on the basis of 30 channel PCM. Why and all we will discuss afterwards. Okay. So there is, after 3.9 microseconds, the second person speech will be transmitted. After another 3.9 seconds, microseconds, so third party, like that, without any appreciable distortion. So if you sample at a rate of 8 kilohertz as per sampling theorem, so it is sufficient for this one satisfactory communication of signal between the calling and called party. The time division switching was initially accomplished by pulse amplitude modulation switching. However, it could not overcome the performance limitations of signal distortion, noise, crosstalk, etc. present in the analog communication. So this is our signal, modulating signal. This is the pulse carrier at which you sample the signal. This is the pulse. This is pulse. These are the sample at this time. This is the amplitude represented by this. At this time, the amplitude is like this. It is represented like this. This is, as we all know, based on our basic knowledge on PCM. This is known as pulse amplitude modulated signal. So initially, for switching purpose in time division, we have used this palm signal. We did not completely switch over to the concept of PCM. But in palm signaling switching, time division switching, we have certain limitations which are also common in case of analog communication. Whatever the negative aspects we have in analog communication, the same are replicated here in case of palm signal based switching also. So the negative aspects are signal distortion, noise, crosstalk, etc. These are the negative aspects as far as analog communication, and same it is so in case if you switch in time division based on this palm signal. Therefore, we go for complete PCM concept. So just this is the basic drawing of block diagram of PCM. Just we have to recollect this one. So this is the input signal and this is the sampler. And here sampling takes place. So this is the palm signal. Then we quantify it. This is known as the quantified or quantized signal. Then for each quantized signal, we assign an 8-bit code in the encoding. This is the digital bit. This is the digital output, which is known as PCM, pulse code modulated signal. So we will look into these points step by step. So we'll continue our discussion on time division switching because this is the present and ultimate technology we are using. So we will simultaneously recollect our concepts on PCM also. With the advent of pulse code modulation, the palm signals were converted into a digital format to overcome the limitations of analog and palm signals. PCM signals are suitable both for transmission and switching. The PCM switching is popularly called as digital switching. So instead of leaving at palm level, so we will quantify and we will give the pulse coded signal. So this will eliminate the limitations of analog and palm signals. So on the top of it, the PCM signaling or signals are suitable not only for switching, they are also very much suitable for digital transmission. That means with the help of PCM, both switching and transmission can work on the same concept of pulse code modulation. That is the beauty of PCM. So there need not be separate technique for transmission and switching. So PCM switching is technically or popularly known as digital switching. Now, having understood the basic concept, just here we will also let us recapture the basic concept of the PCM. Here that's why I have given as PCM at a glance. Analog voice in the range of 0.3 to 3.4 kilohertz. Say generally we say 0 to 4 kilohertz. Technically speaking, it is 0.3 to 3.4 kilohertz. Is sampled at a rate of 8,000 times per second. That is based on the sampling theorem, sampling criteria. Each sample is a given 8-bit code. For each sample, we give 8-bit code. Each user is allotted with a time slot of this 8-bit code in a frame duration of 125 microseconds. If you consider a frame, the duration of the frame is 120 microseconds. Why? Because you are sampling at a rate of 8,000 times per second. 1 by 8,000 is equal to nothing but 125 microseconds. This 125 microseconds frame we consider as a unit, and we divide this unit into time slots. So depending upon the PCM technology we are using, so it may be 32 time slots or 24 time slots. In case of 30 channel PCM, it is 32 time slots. In case of 24 PCM, it is 24 time slots. So we allot within 125 microseconds, we allot one time slot for each subscriber. Next time slot will be given to second subscriber. Next time slot will be given to the third subscriber, and so on. That is how we share the media on time domain. Further we will discuss. Therefore, the bit rate of each voice user is 8 into 8000. There are 8000 samples per second. Each sample will have 8 bits or one time slot. One time slot is with 8 bits. Okay? TS bits into sampling frequency. So in time slot we have 8 bits. Therefore 8 into 8000 is 64,000 bits per second or 64K bits per second. Therefore analog voice in the range of 0.3 to 3.4 kilohertz, roughly say 0 to 4 kilohertz, is equal to 64 kilobits in digital format, and this 64 kbps signal is known as DS0. So when we are converting the analog signal into a digital signal, so whatever 0.3 to 3.4 that we use in analog communication is equivalent to 64 kbps digital signal in the digital communication. So the 64 kbps we designate with DS0. DS0 stands for a digital signal of zero order. Okay. The objective of PCM is to convert analog signal into digital signal. So A to D. So we are converting due to the merits of the digital communication with reference to analog communication, and also to multiplex n number of users speech into a single stream of bits for transmission over a common or sharing area. So in PCM, the main objective of PCM is to first to convert the analog signal into digital signal, because the digital transmission or the digital switching is superior when compared to analog one. And at the same time, we also utilize this PCM for multiplexing or grouping n number of user speech into a single bit stream. So we will further discuss about the concepts of PCM. So as I told you, there are two types of PCMs. One is 30 channel PCM, other one is 24 channel PCM. In 30 channel PCM, there are 32 time slots in each frame. Once again, I remind you, the frame duration is 125 microseconds, and of which TS0 and TS16 are used for framing purpose and signaling purpose. Out of 32 time slots, 125 microseconds, you will divide into 32 time slots. But all the 32 time slots we are not using for voice communication. So 2 time slots are used for miscellaneous purpose. What are these two? They are TS0 and TS16. TS0 we use for frame alignment purpose of the different frames, and TS16 we use for signaling from one calling party to called party, for example. The balance 30 time slots are used for voice communication. Okay, so 30 channels you can use for voice communication. That means a 30 channel PCM consists of voice of 30 users. Now we will compute the bit rate of 30 channel PCM, which is equivalent to, you have 32 time slots, and each time slot you are having 8 bits, and this is repeated at a rate of 8000 times, which is equal to 2048 kilobits per second, and is known as European Standard PCM and designated as E1 and adopted by 80% of the countries in the world, including India. So the bitrate is, as per the calculation, 32 time slots into the number of bits in each time slot, that is 8 bits into 8 cycles per second, 8,000 cycles per second. So therefore the bitrate is 2048 kilobits per second. So this 30 channel PCM with 32 time slots is popularly known as European Standard PCM. So Europe, followed by European countries, not only by European countries, by most of the countries in the world. So roughly it is 80%, almost it is 80% countries, they follow European standard. And we represent this one as E1, 2048 kbps is represented by E1. In India also, as a matter of fact, we follow the same European standard. In 24 channel PCM, there are 24 time slots plus 1 bit for signaling in each frame. In one frame of 125 microseconds, here in 24 channel, you have only 24 time slots and 1 bit for signaling. So each frame consists of 24 time slots plus 24 time slots means each time slot 8 bits, 24 into 8 bits plus that is 192 plus 1 bit, that is totally 193 bits are accommodated in one frame of 125 microseconds. Okay, now we'll go through. The 24 time slots are used for voice communication. The bitrate of 24 channel PCM is equal to 24 into 8 plus 1 signaling bit, and all these are repeated at 8,000 times per second. So which comes to 192 plus 1, 193 into 8,000. That is 1544 kbps and is followed in the America and Japan and designated as T1 and J1 respectively. So this 24 channel PCM structure is followed by Americans and Japanese. That is some more few countries, I can say North American countries and Japan, they follow this basic structure. Americans, they call the same 24 channel as T1 and Japanese, they say it is J1. Since 80% of the countries, including India, follow European standard, all our discussion would be based on 30 channel PCM. For discussing about our digital switching, so we take the 30 channel PCM as the basis for our discussion and understanding the technology. Since 80% of the countries in the world, which includes India, they follow European standard. So whatever discussion we carry out on digital switching is based on 30 channel. If you want to understand the American or Japanese, so you have to consider 24 channel PCM. So this is the second part of SPC exchanges or principles of digital exchange. Thank you for participating in the discussion.